Hi, folks. This is David Susan, and this is Inside the Leader's Edge, where what's in the way becomes the way, where we look at what are the obstacles and turning points that have taken leaders to where they are now, or the things that even hold them back. Our guest today with us is Mark Williams. Mark is the CEO of Brokers International. He's also a managing partner at Integrity. He's got 30 years of financial experience, and he's been both producing independent agent in the field and a home office leader consulting to agencies and field marketing organizations. Currently, Mark is focused on the future of the insurance industry and the disruptions of insurtech and robo-advisors to the changing demographics and needs of customers. He's also an avid mentor, helping financial professionals navigate the industry. And addition to that, Mark and his wife, Michelle, reside in Atlanta, Georgia, Hotlanta, and with their pug, Doug, I love that, and they're proud parents of two grown sons. And then in his spare time, you'll likely find him tinkering under the hood of his 1964 Pontiac GTO. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. Super thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, absolutely. So you got to start. I got to start with the car. Just how long have you had it, and why are you still tinkering with it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so I'm a car geek and have been my entire life. And if I were to do it over again, I should have been a mechanic, to be honest. I'm a shade tree mechanic. I've had the GTO now for about 3 years. I got it about 60% restored, 70% restored. I love the motor work. I love a puzzle. So bring me a car that's not running and ask me to get it running, that kind of thing. So if I need a starter, I can change that. So tinkering, I love. I'm always changing something, revitalizing something, refurbishing something. I've got a couple cars now actually that I'm kind of poking around with. So yeah, that's my getaway. I guess.
Fun when you're not dealing with family and stuff. So I'd love to start by just hearing a little bit about what you do now, and maybe your journey of how you got to where you are.
Sure. So I run what's called a field marketing organization. The best way to describe that is we are distributors of insurance products. So life insurance and annuity products specifically. And when a life insurance agent wants to sell certain companies, many of those companies don't allow the agent to represent them directly from the company. They have to go through a third-party distributor like us. And so our job as a company is to assist that financial professional in providing the best suitable product for a customer. So an agent would meet with you, David, and say, hey, what are your goals and plans? And then they would bring that information back to us, and we would help them choose the carriers, the companies, and possibly the products that they would present to you. And so we're that middle person that kind of gives advice to them. And so we do that across the nation. We have 190 agencies below us, meaning in our hierarchy, and over 10,000 agents nationwide that write insurance products through our business. And so I oversee the entire business, which we're located in Des Moines, Iowa. We have about 140 employees now, a marketing department, new business, operations, finance, all of that. And I've been there about 11 years. And my history, I started out as an insurance agent right out of school, a stockbroker and an insurance agent. Got married, and my wife said, hey, I don't want to live on commission anymore, which I didn't blame her. I wasn't awesome at it. So I went and worked in a home office. And so I worked in 3 different insurance companies inside the insurance companies, and slowly kind of just moved up the ranks. It was never my mind. Like I never set out to be a CEO. It just, I was in the right place at the right time. A little bit of luck always helps. The third insurance company I worked for owned a distributor, and they asked me if I would assist in running that. And that's what kind of sprung me into becoming a CEO. So wow. A little bit of luck and a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I love that. You know, one of the things that always fascinates me is in this path to where you are is looking at turning points in your life that kind of got you there. And a lot of times when I ask this question about turning points or obstacles, people say, well, you know, I was at this job and I moved to this job. But sometimes what I find are the turning points happened maybe there in your career, but maybe they happened early in your life. For example, my turning point, I mean, I can point to it when I was 16 years old. It changed who I was as a person, right? Something that drove me to change. And then about 20 years ago, there was a significant change. So I call these marker moments. Were there, what I'd like you to think about are some of the turning points in your life that maybe have gotten you to where you are, decisions or thought process that you made that kind of moved you in the direction to where you are to either be a leader or to be in this world.
Yeah, and there's a few. I'm nodding as you're speaking, right? My dad was an entrepreneur and a sales guy. So that mentality of if you're not early, you're late, always have an opinion. If someone asks you a question, voice your opinion and voice it proudly. Admit when you're like all of the entrepreneurial kind of salesman-y kind of things I had from my dad. And in fact, the first job was the turning point. I got my first job at a furniture store, and my dad gave me this presentation. He said, walk in, and this is exactly what I did. I went in and I said, I'd like to work here. And they said, as the stockroom, I was the stockroom assistant or something. And I said, I'll work for you for 2 weeks for nothing, literally nothing. And at the end of the 2 weeks, if I did a good job, I'd like you to hire me and pay me for the back 2 weeks. If you don't feel like I was cut for the job, then no skin off your back, don't hire me, and you don't owe me for the 2 weeks. That was literally the turning point of if you present yourself in the right way with the right language, right? Like I persuaded someone to get my first job, and that was a big turning point in my life. Was if you're honest and you're direct and you really feel your value is of worth, someone will either pick you up or they won't.
Right. What I hear there also is you're actually providing value, but you stand behind and you believe in your value enough to say, hey, I'm going to work for 2 weeks. And you, in the back of your mind, you must have known, but I know I'm going to work my tail off and you're going to hire me.
Yep.
I mean, there had to be a little bit of that behind the scenes confidence, yes?
You bet, that confidence. And that one thought has followed me in my career. I have been in very many situations where an employee will come to me and say, I'd like a raise. And my first question always to that, and I love that question, by the way, or the statement, my answer back always is, tell me why. Mm-hmm. What have you done? And if you can convince me that you're that valuable to the organization, I need to listen to you, right? Like, what have you done? If you're that... And if you're not, I can tell you, I'll share with you why I don't think so, right? So that's even valuable, I would say. So most definitely that has always sat with me. And my father always taught me, and I mentioned it earlier, always have an opinion, especially when in your career. A job is one thing, but if you're in an industry and it's your career, you have to have an opinion about what you do. Where's the business? What does it look like 3 years from now? Are people going to buy your products why do people there are questions that you should be able to answer or at least opine on if you're in a career. And my dad always said, don't be shy about your opinion. No one has to like it, but have an opinion. And that has served me very well.
So some people are afraid to share their opinion. They don't do this. Why do you think that is, if you had to speculate?
Lack of confidence for sure. Lack of confidence in the answer, right? Oh, I'm not really sure if my thinking is correct. So that might be one. Some people are shy, right? Oftentimes when we give our opinion, it might be in a group setting. And usually the larger the group, the fewer people will speak. So sometimes it's just a fear of speaking in a group or looking or feeling stupid. And I found it's most often that. I think most people are just a little bit timid about, ooh, what if it was a stupid question, or what if no one else thinks this way, and that never really bothered me.
Yeah. Well, it's true though. I think a lot of people are afraid to share their opinion, and I think it stems from fear, and I think fear holds a lot of people back.
Oh, it does for me. I'll be the first one to admit. I have been incredibly fortunate in my career to have been handed off. I'll say handed off. I moved into businesses that were built or semi-built, and I helped them get bigger. I never walked out on my own and risked everything to start a business. I was afraid, admittedly, and I would argue that I'm a pretty successful guy. I always had that bit of fear. Never had the confidence in myself that, I think I could do this. So that fear did hold me back 100%. I 100% agree with that.
I want to tag on to something you said. You've been successful helping to grow these businesses once you got in there. What what do you think your, I hate to say, secret of success is, but maybe it's a management philosophy or leadership philosophy you have, or or what do you attribute that to? Like to be able to come in and grow a business, from a
Yeah.
leadership role, what is it about you or how you do it?
Uh, I am a people person for sure. I think my investment in people has paid off for me. And I'll give you three
Yeah,
small examples.
great.
First of all, as a leader or a manager, my job is to help me get my staff where they want to go. So, David, if you worked for me and you came to me and said, I'd really love to do X in the next 2 or 3 years, I feel it's my job to get you there. And that doesn't have to be within the four walls of the company that I run. If you have your mind set on something, my job's to get you there. And I think people see that and value that and understand that that really is what I'm trying to do. Is value you and the input that you give, the value that you contribute to the company. I see people as people. My employees are people. We're a team. Some people, they work for me technically, but they don't. We're on a team. I'm invested in my employees. I know their names. I know their spouses' names. I know their pets' names. I know what they do on the weekend. I'm concerned with them. I run a business that is filled with people, not workers. And when a dog dies, some companies just think that's inconsequential. Well, for me, I'm a dog owner. When I lost my dog, yeah, take a couple hours off. Take the afternoon off. That's a big deal. I don't care about the check the hour here, check the hour there. That's an event, right? And so I'm treating you like a person. I respect you as a person. And I think because of that, I think I've been nominated for things. I have been singled out for things. And I think people have stayed with me and moved across the country to work with me because of my interest in them and my empathy for them and my feeling about people, I think.
I love that. Where does this come from, though? Because this is, what I see is this is contrary to most. Would you agree? And where does it come from?
Yeah. Where it comes from, good question. Probably just the way I was raised, family, right? It's I always took an interest in people. One of my favorite things to do is sit at a park bench and just watch people go by. Like, I love people, and I will talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime. I got that from my dad. So just an interest in people, and I find people incredibly interesting, and there's always something I can learn from someone. And so I like, that's just innate in me. But I will tell you, I never saw people as just a worker or just a means to an end. Like, I help support 150 families. So the decisions that I make for the business and where that business needs to be 3 years from now, it isn't just for me and financial benefit. There's 150 families that rely on the business as a business, and I want that business to grow for those, so those families are okay, right? They have somewhere to work. It's a nice place to work. It's a great environment, and that has just always served me well. And I truly believe this: when you have happy employees, your customers know it. They just know it. You do. Like when you have, I fly a lot. And when I call into Delta, that's who I fly. I'm in Atlanta. When you get the person on the phone who's grinning, you know it. You know it immediately. Like they just, hey, can I help you? Like it's just a nice feeling. And I think our business has been successful because the people enjoy where we work. They enjoy the workplace. And I think that's part of the culture that I help create, I think.
That's really cool. Did you, in your career before you had where you were the leader, did you have someone that modeled this, or did you go the opposite direction? Because it wasn't like you weren't treated that
Yeah,
way.
great question. I've had both. So I have had the opportunity. And now I look back as an older person to say, even when I was with a boss that I didn't like, now I can look back and say that was a great opportunity for me. I didn't love it at the time, but early on in my career, I had what I would call a tyrant boss. It's going to be done my way. There's no consensus. This is the way it's going to be done. In fact, I got into an argument in his office and he said, you know what? I just wish you'd agree with me all the time. And I literally said to myself, I can't work here very much longer. Like, this isn't an environment I want. I'm not just going to say yes because you think it's the right thing. Like, if I don't, I have to have the forum, at least to speak my mind. And some of that I was in the military, and really brief anecdote. In the military, the base, you should ask 100 questions when you're on the base. If you're sitting with your group and your platoon and you're going over what's about to happen in the field and you're going to go to the left and you're going to go to the right, and you're going to cover these people, you ask 1,000 questions. Why are we doing this? But the minute you walk out that gate, the minute you walk into any situation, the plan is the plan, whether you agreed with it or not. And that's how I feel about inside my office. If I come up with an idea, I want as many possible opinions about that idea. And when either as a group or I decide this is what we're doing, I need everybody on board. We need a united front. If you're in the Army and your platoon's going left and you decide to go right, you're all by yourself. That's not a good situation to be in. And that's how I feel about business. We're either going to fail together and we'll learn from the failure, or we're going to succeed as a group, but ask as many questions and push back, because pushback is what gets you farther. Overall, so when someone pushes back to me and says, challenges my idea, it forces me to do two things: rethink, which is always good, or dig in deeper because I think I'm right, or dig in deeper with more facts and truths. And so either way, I think you benefit from someone saying, hey, are you really sure? I think you benefit both ways. And so I think that's been, because working under a tyrant or working under where you don't feel appreciated or you don't feel like the work you're doing is being appreciated. What a bummer way to like who wants to work like that? That's just a bummer.
It's fascinating how many people still lead that way. And it's funny because they always expect different results, but they continue to manage that way. And it impacts morale, it impacts engagement. And they want something better and different, but they're not willing to change. In your opinion, why do you think that is?
Yeah, we used to have a distributor who ran a great business, wonderful business, super successful, but he was a salesperson who really didn't know how to manage. And for the first 5 or 6 years that I knew him, his business, although it did well, his turnover was outrageous. He was that kind of person that would, if you're in a group of 6 or 8 and you're on the phones, he would walk up to you and belittle you in front of everyone else. You're doing it wrong. Like, it was horrible. And we formed a friendship. And when I got comfortable enough to say, you're a great salesperson, you need to hire a manager because I wouldn't work for you. And one of the reasons why your business is plateauing is because people don't want to work for you. And it's tough to continue to hire. And your business is going to struggle the bigger you get. Number one, because you have to delegate and no one wants to work for you. And number two, it's always your way. And I said, there's 5 ways for me to drive to your office. If you tell me I have to go this way, at some point in time, I'm going to get pissed and leave. I said, and you're experiencing that. And so some of it was ego for him, for sure. I will applaud him that after it took a little bit of time, but he never 100% admitted it, but said, you know what? A lot of what you had said came to fruition, and it worked. And so I think a lot of it is ego. A lot of it's control. I was in a situation with my own marketing department. When I first took over the company, I said everything that left the company had to have my approval, because this was kind of like my brand, right? Whatever left our 4 walls was a statement on me. And then they came to me after about 4 months and said, you are holding us up. We know what you want. If everything we produce has to go through you, this department can never grow. We'll never do the marketing that we want to because you're going to hold us back. Yeah. And they were right, 100%. And I let go, and they were still producing fantastic stuff.
It's cool.
But ego for sure.
I love that. And I would agree. I mean, that's what I see a lot with the clients I work with. When you think about leadership challenges in general, and you kind of touched on some of this, just in general for leaders, what do you think the biggest challenge is today for people in leadership roles?
Ooh, good one. And actually, I speak about this. We're working with 4 generations in the workforce. Almost unprecedented, right? Yep. When you think of when I think about my dad just passed at 83, but up until his 70s, he was working, right? And so you've got the way he grew up, not technologically advanced, didn't grow up with a phone in his hand, to people coming out of college where everything's done on the phone, everything they consume, all their information. Well, how you communicate to your employees has to be different sometimes. You're speaking to different generations. You're speaking to people who perceive information differently, collect information. So one of the challenges, I think, is just leading a very diverse group of people. And I'll say not only age today, but you have gender and religion and ethnicity. And that's a challenge. It's way more of a challenge today, for good or for bad. And we could argue that all day long. But you have to be sensitive to all of those things today, and that can be a challenge. And I think that's a big challenge. Technology today. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, what do you say to the person who says, "No, my way or the highway"? That back to the comment, the tyrant. What about the mentality of the person that says, "No, I'm paying them, do the job."
Yeah, and I would say, unfortunately, there's lots of successful people like that, so it works for them, right? I think lots of people gravitate to who they gravitate to. It's funny, in the sales business, often salespeople will put people in silos. Some people don't want to work with engineers, for example, because they're very specific and they need a lot of information. And then, right, so I think you gravitate towards. Now, there are a lot of people who do need to be told what to do. I was in the military, and the military is a wonderful life for people who want to be career military because, quite frankly, there's a lot of things you don't have to think about that you think about in the other world. You don't have to think about what you wear. You wear the same thing every day. You don't have to be told what to do because you have the same kind of job every day, right? There are certain things that structure is fantastic. And for people who understand that about themselves, working for a tyrant could be a good thing. You know exactly what you have to be done. You don't have to think outside the box because, quite frankly, they're not asking you to.
That's true.
So I think people gravitate towards that. I just think as a human being on this planet, I get way more out of me giving to you and getting, like, I'm a karma person kind of. So I think just the way I treat you, even in business, comes back to me. And the really successful people that I know or that are in my circle, I'll say, just work that way as opposed to being the tyrant. And again, there are lots of successful tyrant businesses. So I don't want to say that it's a bad way. It just doesn't fit who I am and the people that I want to work with.
Right, right. When you think about challenges in the industry, right, or challenges in leadership, right, multi-generational, what about for yourself? What do you see as personally, as a leader, your greatest challenge right now that you struggle with, want to be even better at?
Change management. And I know that kind of a buzzword, and it's a big 30,000 foot view thing. Yeah. But the pace of change, everyone would have to agree, today happens much faster than it did. Keeping up with even marketing and communication. Small example, but huge example. I grew up with the Yellow Pages. You wanted a business, you looked it up in the Yellow Pages. Today it's the internet. And now it's influencers are like the marketing is totally different today, especially for a small business. So keeping up with technology and the way people consume information and purchasing, I think is right now my biggest challenge in the industry that I'm in. We're still a face-to-face industry, trying to become more electronic. So distributing product electronically in our business is different. So I think just how, and you kind of mentioned it in my intro, I'm very curious as to when when the shifts happen. I do a ton of purchasing online now with Amazon. Had you told me 10 years ago that 30 or 40 or 50% of my purchases would be online, I would have told you were nuts.
No way. Yeah.
So how do you as a business keep up with the expectation of the consumer, how to reach the consumer, how are they going to consume your goods and services in such a rapidly changing environment? That is a struggle, I think, for any business, and I know it is for me because in our business, a lot of that is happening very, very quickly.
Yeah. What about as you look at challenges from leadership, not necessarily outside of, that, technology, et cetera, but what about just managing your team? What do you find is the biggest challenge other than we talked about generational, but what about just being a leader of people? What's the hardest part right now?
Good question.
Or area you want to get even better at.
Yeah, understanding employees' wants. Now we have work from home people, we have remote people, we have people with higher expectations. For me, it always comes back to people and the expectation, right? And I always want to be a better human being, but I always want to be a better boss, right? How can I improve? I moved across the country to take this position that I'm at now, and 3 or 4 of my employees moved with me from Atlanta to Des Moines. That was probably the best ego boost ever. And I literally had a conversation like, why would you want to come work for me? If I could get 150 people to do that, like to me, that's so I think managing people
That's
has
remarkable.
always been and will always be my challenge.
Yeah, it's challenging, definitely.
Yeah.
So last question, and this might I didn't give this to you ahead of time to think about, so I'm not gonna put you on the spot too much, but I am. So here's the thing. When I was young, my aunts, uncles, whatever would, they hadn't seen me in a while and they'd come see me. And I was very shy and introverted. And I always thought to myself, they would ask me the same silly questions, right? And the whole time I'm thinking, God, I wish they would just ask me about this. But I wouldn't say that to them, right? But in the back of my mind, as I was growing up, it was like I felt there was something I wanted to share, but I was too shy to say it unless they asked it. So the question I have for you is, what is the question you wish people would ask you that they don't, or that I didn't ask you and you wish I would?
Probably because of where I am in my life right now, I would say I what do I think people think of me? Like, what's my brand outside of my own head? I think about brand a lot today, my own personal brand. Who are you? What do you stand for? And what do you think people think of you? And not so much because I mean, I do care. I won't say I don't care, but your brand is so important today for everything you do, and especially as a leader of a company. Who I am personally puts a flavor into the company. And so if I'm personal and I do things online, for example, that bleeds into the business. And so I do ask, much like you did, what do I need to work on? What could I get better at? What is my brand outside of me? Because what I think it is and what it could be 2 different things. And sometimes that's not healthy. And so I think for me, it's understanding who I want to be and who do people perceive me as. That's probably very telling, and you and I could try to talk for hours just on that.
I absolutely love that. Love that. I love that. Well, I want to be sensitive to time here. If people want to get in touch with you, learn more about you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yep. So just like many others, social channels, LinkedIn. I do have a website. It's markwwilliams.com. So markwwilliams.com. You can get a hold of me there. That's probably the easiest way. And I am really good about getting back to people. So yeah, I would say the website. Thank you.
And then you also shared with me that you do speaking.
I
Tell me a
do.
little bit
We
about
have
that and kind of target market and what you're looking for.
So 2 or 3 different things. I love to talk to salespeople. One, just about sales practices. Not only was I a salesperson, but I get called on by lots of salespeople. And I have amassed the things to do and the things not to do, so I present on that. I present on your own personal brand. What does it mean to have a brand? Whether you work inside a company, whether you're a middle manager, whether you're a CEO, whether you're a salesperson, your personal brand today means a lot. And I have some presentations on that. And I speak about generational differences, like we spoke about here. How do you manage them internally? If you're someone that calls on customers, should you meet a 75-year-old and sell them differently than a 22-year-old? Sure. And maybe you should speak to them differently. So all those topics and anywhere in between. So yeah, again, on the website, markwwilliams.com.
Love it. Love it. Well, Mark, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today and for your insight. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to reach out to him, please do. I'm David Susan. And Mark, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me. This was fun. Appreciate it.
All right.